Hello and good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining our free online lesson. For today's topic, we will take a look at the Fusion 360 surface modeling. So my name is Nabi Fikri Mishauzan, an application engineer for IK System. So we'll take a look at the Fusion 360 surface modeling. Right, so basically, there are some of the things that we will take a look at the Fusion surface. So basically, we're going to start with creating a surface. Right, and then we're going to modify the surface, and we're also going to convert surface back into a solid. Right. So right over here, so I have several sketches that I have already prepared. Right. So to inside of this Fusion 360, so you can see we have a from the design here, we have a solids. We also have a surface modeling tools. So this is what we are going to take a look at. So over here, we have some batch tools, extrudes, revolve, and sweep. So basically almost the same with these extrude tools. So basically the same. Our extrude solids will extrude this as a solid bodies. So if I want to check back whether this is solid or not, I can go to the bodies. And then you'll see the symbol here is the cylinder, which is a solid. If you have a surface, you have something orange color like this. This one is a solid. Otherwise, to identify, you can go to the utilities, and then you can use the section analysis to basically see what's inside. So if there are section view, hatch view like this, basically this means this is a solid. All right, so let me just undo this. So to extrude as a surface, I can go to the surface tools over here, and I have the extrude tools. So I can select this line over here, and then I can extrude. Then you will see right off the back, it is extrude as a surface, right? So you can see there are hollows inside. It's only just a thick face over here without any solid inside. So once I'm done, I can just press OK, and then we will see here from the bodies, this is body 3, which is orange color surface. Right, so that is how you can use to start to create some surface. So basically the same things, if I have some revolve tools, so I can basically revolve this one as a surface. So I can select revolve, and then I can select this profile here, and I can select the axis. Now it looks like it's revolved as a solid, but if I were to change the revolve value, you can go over here. So let me just put some negative value just to flip. You will see that there are some holes inside here. So this indicates that this is actually a surface. Right, so let me just undo that. So for surface, you don't necessarily need to have a enclosed profile like this. So you can just also use lines, and then you can still able to extrude or revolve this one. So I have something like this. So other than that, you can use loft tools. Again, you don't need to have a closed profile. So I have an open profile like this. So I can just click this line over here, and then I can continue to click the next line. Then you will see it's try to turn this into a surface. I can click, continue to click, and then I have this surface here. Then I can continue to click at the top of here, and I can press it. So basically the process is the same. If I were to extrude this one before, then you see we have the distance, the temperature that you can choose from here. You can change the directions. And same again with the sweep tools. You can select this. You can select the path. Then you become sweep tools. So the only thing does not appear here is the bullet, which is for you to cut or join. Right, so that is some of the examples. So let me just turn off some of this since we don't actually need. Right, so I can also extrude this open profile like this, and I have a surfaces. So that is the basic things to start. Other things that you can do here, you can also use patch tools. Patch allow you to close a holes, right? So for example, if I have holes like this, and I would like to close this hole, so I can use patch tools, and I can select the edges of the holes, and it will automatically close this. Right? Then I can close at the below here as well, and then I have this enclosed object. So it looks like it is a solid, but this is actually still a surfaces. So if I use utilities to section the view, then you will see there are holes inside. Right, so let me just undo the patch. Right, so the patch, you can also do that. So you can also do patch with different settings. So if I go back here, I can select patch. So if I select here, it's automatically select all of the edges because of the change. So if I uncheck the change, I can select it manually. Right, and I have this surface like this. Now this surface here, you can see from the group edge over here, it is selected as a connected, meaning it will try to connect from the edges, it will be full close. I can also change here into a tangency, so it will become a more smooth connection between the into this patch over here. So it become tangents over here, but there are some holes inside a little bit. So that is just a little bit downwards when using the the tangent into it. Right. So the tangent, you can also use curvature. So curve, we have something like this. But if you want a smooth tangency, so you can just select tangent. But if you want curvature, you can just choose curvature. You can also change the weight value over here. By default, it is set to 0.5. So I can change the weight value, let's say the 0.7. So you have increased amount of tangent there. Right. So the rest I can also just add maybe the rest also as a tangent. I can increase or decrease the value here based on the value that I want. So once I'm done, so I have this patch over here, just a little bit tangent. Other things that patch you can do is that it is also do to basically fill in a sketches. So for example, if I have a sketch over here, let me just find it back. Right, so for example, I have sketched this object something like this with some holes, and instead of extruding this sketch edges or sketch edge with it, I want to fill in this sketch over here, so I can use patch. So I can select, and it will fill in the patch, including the holes inside. So if I want to remove the hole, I can just include this patch as well. So it will be something like this. Right, for this case, I want the hole to remain. So I have something like this. So you can use patch to basically fill in the area of the sketch. That is patch. So let's take a look at some of the things that you can find from here. You also have rules. Rules allow you to basically to extrude from the edges. So for example, if I have several edges from here, and I would like to extrude these edges, so I can use rules. So I can select this edge, and I can just fill in, and you can see it is now extrude something like that. So let me just cancel this one bit. So this one, let me just turn this one off. Now, when I use rules, there are several setups of types that you can use. One is the normals. So let me just uncheck and change, so it will only select one side only. So normal will be extrudes 90 degrees from this plane at the side here. That is the normal. But I can also change the distance of the angles if I want to. So I can just change from here. So I have tangents. So this will basically extrude tangency from this face. So that is tangents. And if I want direction, so I can just select direction. I can select the face direction that it will. Right. So otherwise, I can also just use rules, basically selecting the faces. Oops. Let me just uncheck change. So I can select multiple face. I have something like this. And if I want to change the angle, so I can just basically change the angle. Now you see at the edge here is become a bit smooth like a fillet. So if I want this to be a straight cut, I can also select mid the corner, so it will become a sharp edge, something like this. But otherwise, I can just remain this as this. Same again, I can just use this here. Rules, I can select, and then it will giving you for the normal, it will be giving 90 degree. If I want straight, I can just do tangents as well. So we have quite similar with the rule here, which is the extend tools. Right? But if I use rules, basically rules is going to extrude to different direction or corner. So or I can also use tangents. When I press OK, it's creating a new face over here. But if I use extends, this basically is going to extend the face instead of creating a new one like below here. So it will be extend like this. So that is natural. So basically it extends straightforwards. You can also do that differently. So for example, like if I use extend natural, then you see it's try to make sure to make the same angle like this. So if I want, I can also select perpendicular. So it will become perpendicular, or I want to be tangent, so we will be follow tangency model. So I can also do that. But for the extend, I cannot change the angles. So that is a little bit different between extend and rules. Other things that we have here is the offset. So offset basically is going to give a thickness to the surfaces, basically convert it into a solid body. So if I use offset, oh sorry, not offset. If I use thicken, so thicken will become thick into a solid body. So you can see here it become a bodies. Right, but this is not what we want, so let me just undo. So then we have the offset. Offset basically allow to offset the faces. So same with using the sketches for the offset tools. So for example, if I go back to the sketch I have the offset tools, and this will allow you to create lines offsetting from this previous. So that is the offset for the sketch. So for the surfaces, basically the same. You can use offset. I can select the faces that I would like to offset, and I can just use this to offset the distance from the origin. So basically I have to do this. Right, so that is the offset tools. So we already take a look at the thickens. And then we also have the boundary fill. So these boundary fills allow to convert a multiple surfaces into a solid bodies. So in order for you to use boundary, you need to have a enclosed area. So for example, I have created some examples over here. So I have two solid bodies over here, and not yet quite close yet. So I'm going to add some construction lines just to make sure that there are enclosed area inside. So I can select 3 points, let's say from these 2 points, these points. So basically there are some area inside. So that area inside can be converted into a solid by using the boundary fields. But however, I still want to add some more just to make sure it becomes some like a hole. So for example, if I draw something, Let's say something like this. And I would like to revolve this. Say this is the axis. I want to make sure that this is fully closed, so we just back close. Right. So now I want to convert the inside here, the area inside, into a solid, so I can go into the boundary field, and I need to make sure to select all of the tools that require tools. Then you will see the green here indicates that this is the empty area, and this will be converted into a solid. So last thing is I also want to select here as well, and then I can select the cells. So if you have multiple areas over here, you can select which is the area that you want to keep and which is don't want to keep. So currently I want to keep the inside here, and just click, and then this is the area that it will create a solid. But for the other two, I just remain off like this. So when I press OK, it is now has created a body, which is a solid body inside, by using combination of these surfaces. So let me just turn off some of this. This one you don't need. This one you don't need. Don't need the plane here, and also don't need this body over here. So right now this is become a solid bodies. Now if I go into utilities, I can use section analysis, and then you will see there are solids inside. So that is how you use these boundary tools to create a solid. So let's take a look at the modifying tools for the surfaces. So over here we have stitch. So stitch is also one of the tools to convert into a solid bodies. But before we go to the stitch, we'll take a look at some of the other things such as trims, extends, so on and so forth. Now, if I would like to trim the area, so I can use trim command over here. So if I like to cut a surface using the other surface, so I can use trim. So basically the same like a sketch mode. So right here, I would like to use this area over here to just trim inside. But before that, maybe I want to clean up a little bit from here just to remove some of this unwanted air, right? So let's say if I click some holes inside here, okay, not that. Let me just select here instead. Right, so from here I can just extrude as a surfaces, and I want to extrude both sides. And what I want to do here is I want to cut by using this as a tool. So I can use trim. So I can select this is the tools that I want. And then the inside here will be the face that I will be using to trim. So when I press OK, then you see it is now cut. And if I close there, so I have these holes there. So I can also use this as a tools. Maybe I want to trim using this as tools, and the outside here as a trim tool. So I have something like this. Now, over here we have the untrim tools. So basically, untrim tools is going to remove a holes or the cut edge, so you can use to trim. But for that case, I cannot use to untrim this. The reason why it's only work with a flat faces. So over here we have one face, second face, and the third face, so it will not work on multiple faces. So let me just undo this. And let's say just trying to make this as a oops. Okay, let me just never mind, let me just create a new one instead. All right, so I'm using this to trim. So if I want to remove this hole over here, so I can use untrim. So I can just select the face and it will automatically find and remove the hole. Don't necessarily need to use trim tools. So for example, if I have this face over here, there are no trim tools used over here. What I did here is just creating using some sketch and then I using the patch to fill in the face. But I can still use untrim tools just to remove some of these faces over here, these holes. So I can use untrim. I can select this face and you can see automatically it tried to fill in everything and all of this has been removed. The hole has been removed, the outer edges has been removed. So the reason why, because I set the type to all edges. If I only want to have the internal edges removed, the outside to have to be remain, only the hole to be removed, I can select internal edges. So only the internal is being removed. If I only want to remove the outside here, I can select external edges and the inside will remain. I can also select manual, basically allow me to select manually all the items. So for this case, I need to uncheck first and I can select manually the edges. So this is the edges that I want. This is the hole that I want to remove. Also this, and I use this manually. Right, so that is the manual tools. Right, so we have taken a look at the trim and untrim. Other things that we have is the stitch and unstitch. Now, for me to convert this into a solid body, so first of all, you need to have a close profile. But for this case, I cannot use boundary fill. The reason why, because we take a look here before, there are some holes inside over here that you might not see, right? There are some leaking, so for that case, you cannot use boundary fill. So, but you can still use stitch, but for these stitches, you cannot use on the area that have intersections, something like this. So you have this intersection, the intersect with the other faces. So for the stitch, you cannot use intersection. You must make sure that the face has been connected smoothly, even though there are holes or leaking, but you can still able to stitch later on. So for this case, I'm going to fill in some of these faces. So I'm going to create some patch. So, but if I just directly use patch on this area, the result might not be good. The faces, okay, so this one is quite okay already. But if I want to have several area, for example, this area, patch with straight patch. So for that case, I need to just redraw back using a sketch and later on using patch just to fit it. Right, so for example, over here, and I can select project just to trace back. And I can select, oops, okay, project. And then I can use line just to basically fill in this line away. Right, so we have this enclosed face here that we can convert it into a patch surface. Now I want to fill in the rest, so I can use patch. So I can select this here, here. I can use some connection if I want to, but for this case, I'm just going to leave it as is, and I can press OK. So we already have some close profile over here. So if I try to use boundary fields, I can select one by one. Then you have some error here because there are some leaking somewhere that you might not see. But for that case, you can use stitch. Stitch will combine all of these surfaces and it will convert it into a bodies. So if I use stitch, I can select this face, this face, this face over here, and I can select this face. Basically, there are 4 faces. These 4 surfaces will combine together into one surface and it will convert it into a solid. So once everything has been selected, you can just press OK. Now it's become one bodies. But if you take a look over here, it's still as a surfaces instead of solid. If you take a look at the utilities, and then yes, we have some holes inside. So the reason why, again, like I mentioned before, so let me just uncheck. Oops, let me just uncheck. The reason why, because it has some leaking or holes. So when you use stitch, you can set up the tolerance value. So when I click this face, this face, this face, and this face, you can set up the tolerance value. So if there are some leakings somewhere, it will try to fill in. So let me just increase the tolerance value over here. And then when I press OK, and it will try to fix it. So for this case, still not fixed. So let me just increase some more. Or maybe there are some area that I haven't selected. Oh, let's back the back face here. I haven't selected that one. Right. So right now it now become a solid bodies. So if I take a look at the utilities section view, and then you will see it is actually solid. Okay, one thing that I forgot to mention is that when you use surfaces such as patch or some of this, such as wools, for example, the patch here, let me just create a new one instead. Now, if I use patch, I also have analysis here that you can basically analyze the curve of this patch, right? So the curve of these surfaces, or maybe I want to make this as a tangents. Then I can go to the analysis to basically analyze this patch surface. So I can go to the zebra just to see whether it is smooth or not. Curvature map, you can just set up over here. So I can create this much more smooth beforehand. If not, you can just press none. Right, so we have taken a look for the stitch. We also have unstitch, right? So stitch basically is going to stitch everything and it convert it into the solids. So if I want to move this back from the solid bodies into a surface body, so I can select unstitch. Unstitch and press OK. I can select and delete one of the faces, then you will see there are holes inside. So it's converted back into a surface. And by the way, you can also use unstitch on already solid object. So for example, I'm creating this one as a solid object. And maybe create some sphere somewhere around here. It's a join instead. Now this is a solid. So if I go into utilities and section view, then you will see clearly it's actually a solid base. Now, if I want to convert this into a surface, I can use unstitch from the surface. So when I click over here, now if I delete this, then you will see there are holes inside. So it's now converted back to a surface. So that is the surface tools inside Inventor. So let's conclude this lesson for today. So thank you everyone for joining, and I hope I can see you guys again on our next free lessons. So thank you everyone and have a nice day. Bye-bye.